And hello, everybody. This is Mitch with EXP by the Tropical Realty team, and this is our one of our coaching sessions that we're going to do on a regular basis. And today we have Betty Gales. Betty has been in the business for 30 years. She just sold her Remax franchise and came over to EXP. She's got a master's degree in motivational psychology, which is why I don't talk to her too often because I don't want to psych me out. And she's also a coach for Tom Ferry International. So today she's going to be talking about expireds. And Betty, I'll let you take it from there, and I'm just going to hit you up with questions as we go through. As you see in your boxes, there's a questions box. If you have questions as this is going on, just ask them, and I'll go ahead and ask Betty those questions. So this is again being recorded, so you'll go back later on and watch this again. So let's go.
Thanks, Mitch. So I guess my claim to fame in real estate started out about 30 years ago when I first heard about expireds. And, things have really, really changed since then. But I'll just kind of give you an overview of how it all started for me. Like I was attending one of Mike Ferry's, Tom's dad's seminars. And of course, people were up on the stage making all this money and they were calling expired listings. So I thought, this is for me. And there was a guy up on the stage named Andrew Lacey. I don't know if any of you have heard of him. He's in Spartanburg, South Carolina now, and he's a trainer. But he was up on the stage and he had a simple system for working expireds. This was before the age of technology and all the systems like Vulcan 7 were out there. So he was up on the stage. He was doing 300 deals, he and his assistant, and they were all expireds. So here's his plan. He starts prospecting at 9 o'clock. I think he built this up, right? So he started from 9 to 10, and then from 9 to 11, and I think 9 to 12 was where he ended up. So every morning, rain or shine, 9 to 12, he's calling expired listings. The thing is, in Spartanburg, South Carolina, and a lot of your markets right now, you pull up the expireds and they're one or two. Well, that was the way it was for him then, too. The way he got 300 deals is he would have his assistant, which was his sister, and she would bring in every morning all the expireds for the day. So it would start out with two, and they would put the two expireds, they would have the MLS printout, she would hand it to Andrew, and then he would call that expired. Now the key is, if he would continue to call them every single day, and many of you have heard the saying, I'm going to call them until they list or die. And that was where that saying came from him. So what he would do is every day he would have two, so the next day 4, right? The next day 6. And so he's got a stack of about 30 expired listings in his hand. And he is going through those, calling the same people every day. And if they don't answer, he's leaving a message. And it got to the point where it built up so that people were calling him, okay, Andrew, come on over. So he would just almost wear them down. So how has it changed today? It really hasn't, except that the technology helps us to do everything a lot quicker. At the beginning, I had to hire someone to look up my telephone numbers for me, go into, back then it was like search the tax records, get the person's name that owned the property and look up the number. Now you have programs like Vulcan 7, and of course there are a lot of other programs out there, Espresso, Land Voice, a lot of other programs that I know some of you are probably using. I use Vulcan 7 because I've been using it for a long, long time and it works for me. But now all of the expireds come straight into the box, and I can see everybody, all the information I need about this person. How long has that property been on the market? Who was it listed with? What was the price? Here's the telephone number. Here's, in a lot of cases, the email address. So I've got that at my fingertips. And then instead of keeping them in the stack like Andrew used to do, you just use the system to organize them. So, but however, it's the same thing that it was 30 years ago. The people who win at this game continue to call and continue to follow up. And I know, Mitch, in your ISA company and everybody that's ever lead generated in their life, they know the money is in the follow-up. And this is very, very true with expireds. And I'm saying expireds, but Vulcan 7 also has a program for sell by owners. And that's a whole different animal. So we will, if we have time, we can briefly talk about the for sale by owners as well. So, Mitch, any questions so far?
Nope. It's let's dig into it and then we'll get from it. I'm sure I'll have plenty. And let me make sure nobody has questions yet. Nope, no questions from the audience yet.
So I've been reading this book, and it's called the 5-Second Rule. And it is Mel Robbins wrote this book. And it's like whenever you have a thought that you want to do something, like call expired listings, your brain goes completely nuts. I'm not doing this. These people are overpriced. There's 50 people calling. They're going to scream and yell. You know how your brain goes, okay? So if you're going to work expired systems, I sort of, the analogy for me is like exercise. Like you don't want to exercise, but you just do it, right? The old Nike, you just do it. Same thing with expireds. So the hardest call is the first call. And if you force yourself to do it, you get into the rhythm of it. And I've been doing it so long, my brain still tells me every time I go pick up the phone, things are different. It's not like it used to be. All these people are calling before 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to get a new system. I'm going out of real estate. This isn't working for me. So my brain does that, and I still dial the phone. So last year, my highest sale was like a $4 million property, and it went through the same procedure I'm talking about. I called the guy. He told me he'd had many, many calls. He said he'd been bombarded with people calling. I sort of made friends with him. And then every couple of days, he said, I'm taking off the market for a year or so. And just because it just didn't sell, and I'm thinking things were going to improve. And so every week or so, I just call in. His name was Bob, and he was a doctor. And he lived in a different city than Charleston or on the beach where this property was. And I would call him and, you know, he'd say, hey, Betty, and I would tell him all the things I was going to do. And he got to sort of know me on the phone because I called him so much. I didn't push him. Then one day he called me up and he said, Betty, I'm down in Charleston. Can you come over and take a look at the house? So my assistant and I jumped in the car, went over there, and long story short, we got the listing. It was a little overpriced. He became more motivated, and we ended up selling it. And so whenever I have that thought about not calling expireds, I think of that $95,000 check that I got for that one. So you know, and so I continue to call. And if you really do it consistently, which is the key. So most people will come, they'll take a class and well, let's call expireds, and they'll do it for a day and then they'll get rejected and they'll quit. So the people that are making all the money, in fact, there was this guy that is, I think, the #1 agent or one or two top agents in Mount Pleasant and the Charleston area, was on my team. And I taught him using Vulcan 7, the expireds, and now he's the top agent in the office, and many, many, many of his transactions come from expireds. And what he has built his team up to 16 or 17 people, and the crux of it all is lead generation and consistency and follow-up is their secret.
It's all about the follow-up, isn't it?
It is so up, and once you get that it's about the follow-up, you can beat the competition. And I'll give you an example of another lady. She's in the Tom Ferry system, and she decided that she was going to start expired. She'd never done it before. So I'm going to do expireds. So she got Vulcan 7. Her coach was one of the top coaches teaching the expired program. She did everything. It took her 6 months to break into this, doing it every single day. And she said, you know, she just had to try things and see what worked. And on the you know, she would get the appointment. She first started getting appointments, and she'd go out on the appointments, and she'd lose the listing. So again, long story short, 6 months later, now she's taking 30 expired listings a month.
Wow.
30. count that up in numbers. So her goal was something like I don't know what it was, 2 or 3 million in income. So, and most of it is from expireds. So there is definitely money to be made, but you have to get into expireds with the idea that this is going to be a lead generation source for you, and you're going to stick with it. Like exercise, you don't see great results until you really, really do it consistently over a period of time, and it's the same thing with expireds. So Mitch, you want to jump into like the slides?
Sure.
Vulcan 7 was developed by, I had a coach, Ren Jones, and he developed this program just on trying to make it more efficient for us that are working expireds. And so this system has gotten better and better now to the point where it gives you cell phone numbers, it might give you a relative's number if they can't find the original number. Sometimes it could give you the next door neighbor's number. They are going to try to find the number where you can reach somebody. And now they have video associated with it. They have training. So if anybody is interested in Vulcan 7, let me know and I can connect them with a little discount. That's a plug too, because
Right.
but there's also this program is more expensive than some of the other ones. And if you don't have any money and you want to try it, just do the Andrew Lacey program. Look at the expireds, pick up the number and call them every day. So you don't have to do any of these. What we do now for the competition is, because say I start calling at 8 o'clock in the morning, these people are now, it's not like it used to be when I was one of 3 people calling and I was doing maybe a third to a half of my business was expired listings. No longer is the case, because the competition, the teams, the ISAs out there, before 8 o'clock, these people are getting calls, even though it's not even legal to call people before 8 o'clock. These people are getting calls and they are mad. And you really can't blame them. So they've gone 6 months with very little activity. Maybe their agent hadn't even been in touch with them. Then the day it goes off the market, 50 people call them. And so they're mad. And you know, they're confused and they don't know who these people are. So sometimes being the first person might be good, because you can tell people what's coming up, like you're going to get bombarded with calls and you can set the appointment, don't answer the phone or tell them something. Or if you're like me, what I do now is I'm not necessarily, I don't care if I'm the first person. I just got to be the person that keeps doing it over and over. So the first day they're going to have 50 calls, and I'm just saying these numbers because it's different in every town. Second day they're going to have 10 calls. Third day 5, and it goes like that because everybody starts to give up. And sometimes the people that are the most angry and the most mad and the most obnoxious are the most motivated to sell. So you can't just eliminate them because they're mad. I mean, you might think about yourself, like if you've ever had a bad experience with somebody on the telephone, somebody calling, and you were frustrated with the whole service and you let them have it or screamed or yelled. And you're not a bad person. It's just that it was just overwhelming at the time. And that's the way I feel about these expired people. They're frustrated. In some cases, their agents just gave up on them and didn't even call them, or they didn't know what was going on. So my mindset is, this is a fabulous way to make money. These people want to sell, and here they are expired. And so my mindset is, this is a beautiful way to make some money.
Hey,
And
Betty, I got a quick question came up. So
Yeah.
on the phone calls and the phone numbers you get, which I'm assuming Vulcan 7 produces the phone
Yeah.
calls, right?
Yeah.
Are they scrubbed from the do not call list?
No. And so if you, like some people will say that because these properties were on the market and you can call them and they don't qualify for the do not call list, or some people that are just absolutely never going to call people that are on the do not call list, will just have to scrub them for that.
Okay.
So far, people, I mean, I think everybody, and I don't know of anybody that's gotten in trouble for doing that or calling from Vulcan 7. If anybody's ever mad and asked me how they got, if say they asked me, how did you get my number?
Right.
I say, I am so sorry, you know, that are you on the do not call list? This is just a program that I get that every morning tells me which properties came off the market. And if you did not want calls, I'll take you off my list right away. And that you know, that seems to, I've been doing it for 30 years and never once have I been turned in.
Right. Okay.
If you're obnoxious about it, or you you know, just some of these people that don't know what they're doing can really, really be obnoxious and ruin it for everyone else that's trying to help these people.
Right. Yeah. You mean realtors could be
So
obnoxious?
the answer is no. It's not scrub.
I got another question here. Hold on a second while we got you. The question is, can you provide your affiliate code for Vulcan 7? So if you have an affiliate code, we can get that out. We can get that out to everybody after the webinar. We'll email it to everybody.
And the same thing. This program is probably, I say, the most sophisticated and the most expensive. But there is another program that I have a code for too, Espresso. Both of these programs, you can get like a 2-week trial basis for. I can't remember what Vulcan is like $49, and then it moves up to around $300. And then the Espresso is like you get a free 2-week trial, and then it goes up to somewhere in the mid 100s. But I can send you that link so that you can try it to make sure that this is something you want to do.
Right.
Before jumping into it. And then you can do it month to month. It's more expensive if you do it month to month rather than sign a 12-month contract.
Right. Okay. Perfect. All right. Ready to go through the slides?
Any other questions on that?
Nope. So far, we're good to go.
And, you know, some of the people I coach, I want to make sure they're committed before they jump into this lead source, because some people, it is I think the most rejection you can get in real estate right here. So, you know, if rejection really bothers you, it used to bother me. It doesn't bother me anymore. I guess I've been doing it so long that when they get upset, I just get off the phone as fast as I can and go to the next one. So I don't ever take it personally. I mean, you can't help. Sometimes you can't help. Sometimes they will really say horrible things to you. You know, I remember those things. So I would say in a week, I'll get somebody. If I'm calling consistently, I'll get one person that just, you know, cusses and goes nuts. And when that happens, that's when people say, this is not for me. And for me, it's like real estate is a numbers game. So it's like, do you want to give up this source where you made that $100,000 check? No. Do you mind if somebody screams every now and then? Well, I don't like it, but I'm gonna still do it. You know.
Yep.
Yep. Okay, so what we're trying to do not only is call every day, is we're trying to beat Andrew Lacey out if he was calling today. We want to send emails out, videos out, text out, and there's a new thing that people are doing to sort of beat the competition. I'm too lazy to do it. It's like find out who's expired for the day and go to their house and knock on the door. And leave your package there. So Vulcan 7 has a system. You can dial. It has a dialer. Mitch, you can go to the next slide. So this is the dashboard of Vulcan 7, and it can be any. I'm not saying Vulcan 7, but anything you use. The contacts in the morning, the new fresh expireds come in under contacts, and whatever platform you have, they're going to come in on that day. And so what you want to do is take a look. My assistant Anna, she knows where I want to work, so we weed out the contacts that come in because she knows the ones I want. And say if we have somebody on my team that wants an area in another area, then we might give them to them. But she gives me just the leads I want. And so she moves them into my file, they come into new contacts. And then next slide. Then they go, this is all the information. So you can write your notes. You just click on it, timestamps it. You can write your notes about what happened. Like I'm like out of sight, out of mind. Like after I call them that day, it could have been $1 million lead that was a possibility. I forget about it. So you got to write down the notes and put them in the appropriate place. These little arrows are Anna's showing you just how the account works. There's the contact information there, and the picture of the house comes up. Next.
Oops. I missed it. There it goes.
That's good. And then what we were talking about, she sorts the leads, and she puts the leads I want, and we've developed these categories here. So you might have your own category. So what we have is Betty's new leads. So every morning, Betty clicks on new leads. And then next. And then after she calls those people, she's going to take those new leads and say what she wants Anna to do. And if you don't have an assistant, then you can put that in like follow-up or your own follow-up, so that you don't get distracted while you're prospecting, going in your email and trying to send things to this one great lead, and then you only call one lead for the day. So you want to get those out of your box and keep dialing, because it's a numbers game. And so after I call that lead, I'm going to take it and write down what's to happen. I want to talk to that person in a week. And I put that down there. I put it in Anna's box, and she luckily follows up for me. If you don't have an Anna, then you have to do it yourself.
Or get one.
Next. And then there's the follow-up reminders that Anna goes by and does. We might send them, put them on a 4-drip email campaign. We might send them a video text with me saying I specialize in expired listings. We might send them a video, I sold the property next door to you, anything to get their attention, because if they hear from you in different modalities, over while all these other people are calling, they keep seeing Betty Gales, and then 2 weeks later I'm following up, they might remember me. Might, I say.
Might, yeah. Hey, we got a question here for you, Betty.
Okay.
Is there any period of time that we should wait before we contact expireds in different cases? So for instance, I heard once, I have a friend of mine that does expireds, and he will only call expireds once they're a month old. Because he doesn't want to, because he knows the people are probably not really pissed off anymore, and they might be ready to list. So any thoughts on that?
That's a great way to go. And I'm afraid I'm gonna miss one if I do that. But that's great, because you go through in a month, they're usually not mad.
Right. That's what his philosophy was. He said he calls a month later, and he says he never gets yelled at anymore, because they've definitely calmed down after a month. He says
Exactly.
that first week they've gotten called 50, 100 times, and they hate everybody.
Yeah. And if you can't stand, what, I'm on the first call, I'm not trying like I did 25 years ago to get the appointment, get the listing. I'm trying to find out if they still want to sell. Right. So I'll know if I need to delete them or follow them. And if they, are mad and they say, I was going to sell it, but I'm not now. And I said, well, if I had a buyer, which we'll do some scripts. If I had a buyer, would you be interested in selling? Well, do you have a buyer? We're going to go through all those scripts. Right. So when they do that, like I'm able, because I've been doing it so long, but I think it's just common sense that anybody could tell or have a good idea if they want to sell or not. Some will say, hey, I was going to buy another house, but that house sold, and we're going to keep this for a couple years. And then those aren't the people I'm going to really hit. Or my sister listed this for me. We're going to list it back, or, some way that you could eliminate them, because what you want to do is get rid of as many as you can so you don't lose the gems in there.
Right.
Next.
Yep.
I know, am I talking too fast?
No, you're going great. You're doing fine.
Okay. Okay. So we're now at the hot leads. So that is every day I'm opening my Betty's new leads, and then Anna's putting up in the box above Betty's hot leads and the follow-up today, anything that I need to do for the day. So I don't have to worry with it. I don't have to think about what I'm doing. They're all there. And then anything that I'm really hot on, there's going to go in that category. Next. This slide, it's just talking about what Anna is doing, how she's putting them back in the system. Now, these are the emails, and I'll be glad to, you can have these emails, copy them, change them, make them your own. These are just the emails that I send out, 1, 2, 3, 4, if the person is looking like it's something that I want to follow. I'm going to send them an email every day for the first 4 days that it's off the market. Just talking something about me. I mean, the whole purpose is for them to see my name and picture and kind of start recognizing my name.
Right. We're going to send this whole brochure out to everybody, the whole slide deck to everybody, so you'll have all this stuff.
And then this was just a video text that I sent out to them talking about that, you know, how many homes I've sold, and a quick thing that I didn't want to disturb them, or we send it to people that we can't get hold of. We know you're going to get 100 calls today. We just want to stand out. We've been doing this for 25 years, or whatever your specialty, or whatever you can say that might set you apart.
Yeah, we have one more question here. Oh, there it is.
Mitch? Did I lose you, Mitch?
Nope, I'm here. I'm just playing your video.
Oh, I thought that maybe the video was taking over your voice.
Nope.
I'm moving around too much on that. I got to change that. So do we have a question, or you want me to move on?
Yeah. Let me just go to the next slide. Okay, so the question we have, and again, you guys will have all this so you can watch it. So is it legally allowed to call on the same or the next day? I can answer this one. This is an easy one. Yes, as soon as the listing is expired, it's open market. And I will say, and I'd like your opinion on this, Betty. I had my house when I first got on the market. I listed my house when I first became a realtor. I listed my house, which was actually in my wife's name at the time. And so people were calling up me thinking I was her husband, and bashing the heck out of me as a realtor. I mean, really bad. And then we got about 50 phone calls and about 50 letters.
Oh my goodness, you're kidding.
And the phone calls, not everyone, but most of them were bashing me, and the letters were so bad that I almost quit the business. So you don't want to do that, right?
No, never. You know, somebody was telling me today, I forgot who it was telling me they went to get a listing, and they were going to get the listing, and in the corner of the house was a pile of things that they'd gotten in the mail. I mean, like elaborate things, like big old packages and things. So you've got a lot of competition. So here again, what wins it is follow up. You might have that whole pile of things and they don't even look at it, and you call them a week later and they are so frustrated and ready to put it on the market that they say, come on over, and you list it.
Right. Cool.
So I'm gonna go over these, Mitch, briefly, and we can just send them out.
Yep.
But these are scripts that I've gotten from Remax, I've gotten from Tom Ferry, I've gotten over the years. Just some of the things we know that people usually say the same objections, and if you can learn a response to each one. Some people, for me, like I use the scripts just because I've been doing it for so long, but the main thing is don't seem scripted, because in this day, these people are calling and they sound like robots because they're there are people that don't know what they're doing that are calling for someone and they sound like robots. So you really need to either, I would rather you just be natural than sound like a script, like you're reading it and practicing it. Or, you know, I understand your frustration and my intent is not to harass you. You've got to learn a natural way to do it.
Yeah, you have
I
to
wish
internalize.
exactly. So mainly, here's what I do whenever they say anything. I wish you realtors would stop calling me. Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine. You probably have 40 calls or so. I've had 50. You know, so just what match and mirror their tone. If they're mad, you sort of get your voice to that same level when you're talking. If they're, I just feel so upset about this, then you take your voice down to how they're talking. Match and mirror them. Okay. We're going to take it off the market. We're going to relist with our current agent. Great. Have you signed an extension? If they say yes, then you just like, you know, don't try to go beyond that and push. I've heard some of the realtors lately try to push these people beyond that. That's not the way to go. That will not work. We're going to take it off the market. Well, if you could, and now you're asking my question that I'm trying to find out from the beginning so I'll know who to follow. If I had a buyer, if I could sell your home, would you sell it? And then they'll usually say, well, do you have a buyer? Why didn't you bring the buyer when it was listed? Say, no, I don't have a buyer, and I'm not sure that I do have a buyer. I'm just asking if a buyer. I get a lot of internet leads and a lot of people calling me looking for homes, and so I'm just wondering if I do find someone, would you be open to letting me do a one-time showing? Or I'll just say something like that just to see if I can find out if they would still sell it. Are you saying you can sell my home in 30 to 45 days? I am, however, would first want to make sure the plan we implement falls well within your definition of a win. This is a rematch script. I don't use that because that's not my wording, but that's a great thing to say. What do you mean my listing is expired if you're one of the first ones to call? Sometimes they don't even know it, right? Next. My realtor told me it was the wrong time of the year. And then just, you know, properties are selling all year long, whatever that's going on in your market now. You know, we have low inventory, things are changed, da, da, da. Do you have a buyer for my home? Not currently, however, do receive calls on a daily basis, and should your home fit the criteria for one of my buyers, I would be the first one. It would be the first one I would show. I probably wouldn't say that because it wouldn't be true. I probably wouldn't sell it, be the first one. I always tell the truth, and that works. How much do you charge? And then you don't want to get at that on the telephone. So, you know, that's a good way to get into the house, and I want to talk to you about that. There's a guy that's been super successful, and he says, you will determine the price and the commission you pay. You will determine that after our meeting. And then, you know, he tells them, I don't think he can't sell it for 1% or something. That's not something he presents to him.
Yeah, I
didn't use that. I went up against the 4 top agents in my area, and I used that script on the telephone. And when I went and after I did the presentation, the people said, well, we want to do it at 5%, and the price will be $900,000. They literally had taken what I said and told me that, and that was fine with me. And I got the listing.
Right.
And there you go.
So any other questions about this? So you have to ask questions to make this work, right? So I have a question for you. So at what point do you give up? So you called 4 days, 5 days in a row. When does your consistency stop?
If somebody is really rude and nasty and says they'll never list it, or I get the feeling that it's going to be useless, I'll give up. I'll delete it.
And you know that most of the people, marketing is all about 5 times. That's what when I teach marketing classes, people don't notice you till 5 times. And I'm assuming it's probably the same in this. When you've called the 5th time now, and they're actually probably a lot more receptive to your call because they're getting to know you, correct?
Exactly. I thought it was 7.
Okay. Yeah, well, marketing in general, like if you're doing ads on TV or radio or print, it's the five times rule. But seven is better, and never giving up is better. With our internet leads, for instance, we don't ever stop calling them until they tell us to go away.
Yeah, yeah. And that, that I think about that marketing. What is it, Hobbs Herder?
Uh-huh.
That would go into a neighborhood and send out 7 postcards for an agent that didn't even live there, had never sold there. And then they did a survey after that, and they asked the people that were mailed to who was the expert in the area, and they named this lady who didn't even live there.
Hmm.
Because they'd gotten 7 postcards with her name and with information about her.
Sure.
They thought she was the expert because they just looked at her name,
Right. So we got a few more minutes here. Why don't you talk a little bit about your approach to FSBOs?
Okay. I don't work for sale by owners, but I think right now that it's a really good thing, a good market in our area it is, because people are going back for sale by owners because of the inventory. Here's the mindset of the for sale by owner. Number one, they are, or several mindsets. Number one, they are not in a hurry, so they're going to try it on their own first. They don't have to move. They're going to see if they can save the commission first. Number two, they're really looking to see what's going to happen, to see if they're looking for an agent. They kind of want to see what's out there and what's going to happen, and they're looking for an aggressive agent. And of course, they're trying to save the money. So people say, well, I don't want to work with them. They think they know it all. I don't find that with them. Here's the key for me. Like once it comes on the market, and you see that just in the Vulcan 7, you can find out as soon as it goes on Zillow or wherever they advertise it, it's going to come to you. And I wouldn't call them the first day, but I would say call them in a week or so, and just ask the simple question: if I had a buyer, are you paying a buyer's commission? And most of them will say yes. And then you get the appointment. You say, okay, great. Can I come out and look at it? They want you to come out to look at it. A lot of them are thinking that they're going to have to pay a buyer's commission anyway. So they're doing that. They're just trying to save 3 instead of 6% or whatever it is, So you go out there, make friends with them. Don't push them at the beginning, but just make friends, be helpful, take a CMA, talk about how great their house is, and make friends with them. And then stay in touch, follow up, follow up, follow up. And it seems to me that the person who does that, when the person gets frustrated, if the agent is there at that time, they have a good chance of getting the listing.
Right. One of the things that I do with for sale by owners, because I like those, is I will knock on their door and ask them, hey, this is Mitch with Tropical Realty. Before you get upset, I'm not here to list your house. I just want to know if you have a seller's disclosure so you don't get in trouble. And one thing I know about for sale by owners is they never have seller's disclosures. They don't even know what they are. And that usually breaks the pattern to get me in the door. And then I say the same thing. If I have any buyers, would you mind if I brought them by? And they want to show you the house at that point. It's pretty simple. I do have another question here. When you call from 9 to 12, most people are at work. When I call FSBOs and leave messages, nobody calls me back. Does morning calling work, or do they call back? What is the reality? Mine was not successful. So what's the best hours to call?
The age-old question, and this is another Mike Ferry quote: the best time to call is the time that you'll call.
Right. And I can tell you,
it's like exercise. It's like the reason everybody calls in the morning is because it's something you don't want to do and you get it over fast. Right. If you wait till the end of the day when you're beat up and you don't have any energy, it's hard to, have people do something that takes a lot of energy. That's why people call in the morning. And frankly, I have not met anyone that has been super successful that doesn't call in the morning.
Right. The best times to call, we have a call center here, Inside Sales Agents, which I think most of you know. And so 8 to 10 in the morning and 4 to 6 in the evening. Those are the 2 best times to call during the day. Once you get into, like it says in your questionnaire, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, people are pretty much into their day at that point. So the key is to get to be at the beginning of their day, at the end of their day.
That's great advice, yeah. And and also you've got their cell phones, so sometimes you're catching them on the way to work or at work. Or, yeah,
And do you leave messages?
I do.
Okay.
Again, for the name factor.
Right. So so you're branding yourself every time you call too.
Mhm.
Now, one thing I was thinking about as you were talking, are you familiar with slide dial?
Yes.
So with slide dial, would it be a good approach as the first couple of calls, call and leave a voicemail so you're not talking to them, and then that way they're not getting mad at you. And by the third time you actually call them, right?
I love that.
Isn't that a good
I
idea?
love that. I was doing that. I don't know why I stopped.
Yeah.
Like I was doing that because I was mad there were 3 or 4 agents calling before 8. So I was slide dialing and I was saying, you know, I'm leaving you a message because I didn't want to disturb. I didn't even say that because they don't even know that you weren't trying to call them.
Right.
Yeah. So you don't, if they're mad, you don't hear it.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, slide dial is an app that you get on your phone. Just go to the App Store and go to slide dial, and it actually allows you to bypass the phone and go directly to their voicemail. So this works in multiple ways. So for instance, when you're doing a cold calling thing like this and you're just trying to brand yourself, that would work. Say you have a customer that every time you call, they keep you on the phone for an hour, but you need to tell them a 13-second thing. You can slide there, hey, sorry I missed you, but I wanted to just tell you the inspection report came back fine. Whatever. So it's a great tool. Any other questions? No? All right. Well, Betty, I want to thank you for your class today. I thought it was awesome. Great stuff. Great tips. And we'll have you on for more stuff in the future.
Great. Just remember the 5-second rule. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pick up the phone.
There you go. Thanks, everybody. We'll send these slides out to everybody sometime later today in the recording so you have it. And if you have any questions, just reach out. We'll talk to you on our next coaching session. Take care. Thanks again, Betty.
Thank you. Thanks, Mitch. Bye, everybody.